After so many years leading a rebellious people through the wilderness, Moses reaches the final stretch of his journey. Every step was marked by miracles, confrontations, intercessions, and tears. He witnessed generations born and die, faced internal and external battles, and remained faithful to God's voice even under almost unbearable trials. In chapter 7, the final journey of Moses, we are taken into the closing moments of this giant of faith, not as a defeated man, but as someone who understands that his mission is fulfilled. His heart, shaped by intimacy with the Almighty, now longs for something greater than the promised land, the eternal presence of the One who called him from the burning bush. As the new generation of Israelites nears the border of Canaan, the atmosphere is one of anticipation and transition. Moses, now over 120 years old, still has strength, but knows that his path will end before the Jordan. God reveals to him that he will not enter the promised land because of a moment at Meribah, when he struck the rock instead of speaking to it as instructed. This divine decision is not unjust, but pedagogical. The leader who brought Israel out of Egypt must teach until the end that obedience to God is not relative, even for someone so close. Yet God grants Moses a sublime gift, the opportunity to see from atop Mount Nebo the entire land he had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There, in silence and solitude, the old prophet beholds the fulfillment of God's promise with his eyes, though his feet will never walk on it. Before his departure, Moses delivers his final words to the people, one of the most emotional and profound moments in the Bible, the book of Deuteronomy. In it, Moses recounts the entire journey, reaffirms the law, warns against idolatry, and urges each tribe to love and obey the Lord with all their heart. It reads like a father's last will and testament, filled with wisdom, authority, and tenderness. He knows his time is ending, but wants to make sure the people remember everything the Lord has done. In one of the most moving passages, he prophesies blessings and curses, explaining that faithfulness will bring life and prosperity, but disobedience will lead to destruction. It's not a threat. It's the cry of someone who has seen what rebellion can cause. Moses didn't just lead Israel, he loved them deeply. Moses also prepares his successor, Joshua. Through the laying on of hands and words of encouragement, he passes on spiritual, political, and military authority. Joshua had served him faithfully for decades, witnessing miracles, battles, and Moses' prayers. Now it is Joshua who will lead the people into the land. God himself confirms this choice and promises to be with Joshua just as he was with Moses. The transition of leadership happens with order, reverence, and divine presence. Moses doesn't cling to power. He understands that his role was to prepare the way for others. This is one of the greatest signs of his character. He didn't build an empire for himself, but a legacy of obedience for future generations. The leader who once trembled before the burning bush now departs as a legend, whose name would echo for centuries in the faith of millions. Then the final moment comes. Moses climbs Mount Nebo alone, facing Jericho. God shows him the entire land, from the north to the south, every region, every city, every promise laid out before his eyes. And there, in a quiet meeting, Moses dies. The Bible says that God himself buried him, and to this day, no one knows where his grave is. This detail is deeply symbolic. The man who spoke with God face to face had the Lord as his own burial keeper. There is no tomb with his name, no monument in his honor, because his story does not end with human glory, but with eternity. The people mourn him for 30 days. Joshua takes command, and the story continues. But never again did a prophet arise in Israel like Moses, who knew the Lord face to face, performed signs and wonders, and loved the people even when they didn't deserve it. The legacy of Moses is not just historical, it is prophetic. He pointed to something far greater, a new deliverer, a new mediator, someone who would come not just to free the people from physical slavery, but from the bondage of sin. Centuries later, on another mountaintop, the Mount of Transfiguration, Moses would reappear beside Elijah, speaking with Jesus. There, his mission finds its fulfillment. He not only sees the promised land, he sees the Messiah himself. He is honored, recognized, and his faith is sealed with eternal glory. His final journey was just the beginning of eternity, with the God who had guided his every step. If this journey touched your heart, share this video with someone who also needs to be reminded that God remains faithful at every stage of life. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so more lives can be reached through the Word. Here on our channel, we will continue to proclaim stories that edify, transform, and inspire. Until the next video, and may God's presence be with you, just as it was with Moses throughout his life.